My name is Clive Bates. I'm a consultant in sustainability and public health, and I used to be the Director of Action on Smoking and Health in the UK.
My name is Harry Shapiro, and I am the Executive Editor and Lead Author of the Global State of Tobacco Harm Reduction Report 2022. We've called this report the right side of history. And if you call something the right side of history, that suggests there is also a wrong side of history. We would say that the Indian government, by banning e-cigarettes, is definitely on the wrong side of history.
It's quite extraordinary to think that I was in Delhi at the time and remember very well the reasons for it, which were precipitated by the fact that there was concern about e-cigarettes causing respiratory illness among kids in the US, and that had been amplified and spread through the media via a massive Bloomberg philanthropy campaign.
The decision was made keeping in mind the impact that e-cigarettes have on the youth of today.
In the end, we knew that actually there was no respiratory threat coming from e-cigarettes. It was entirely due to contaminated THC cartridges. But by then, people become panicked. The cabinet of the Indian government had voted to ban e-cigarettes, and millions of people were deprived of moving from really deadly combustible cigarettes to e-cigarettes.
There's no doubt that vaping products are much less harmful than smoking. We know this from measurements of toxicants in the blood, the saliva and the urine, so-called biomarkers of exposure. And we find that the toxicants that cause smoking-related disease are present at much lower levels, if they're even present at all.
We now know that over the last 3 years, we've seen stronger evidence coming from Cochrane, coming from the United Kingdom, coming from the US FDA, all saying that e-cigarettes, nicotine pouches, snus, and a range of products are really a far better way for people to quit smoking and dramatically lower their risk.
The press statement on the ban came from the finance minister, not the health minister.
We know that vaping products displace smoking at the population and at the individual level. We know this from randomized controlled trials, from observational studies, from population trends, from economic data, and from extensive user testimony. So these products are contributing to the ultimate end game for cigarettes and smoking-related disease.
What happened the next day, I also remember, because it was very clear that the tobacco companies in India loved the move. Their share price rocketed up within hours.
That not only bans on these products protect the cigarette trade and promote smoking, but they're deeply unethical. They deny citizens the right to protect their own health at their own expense and on their own initiative. And that is, I think, unacceptable for a government to do that to citizens.
It's much more about money and politics than it is about public health.
Banning a much safer product like vaping products when you leave the very dangerous product, cigarettes, available on every street corner in every city in a country is self-evidently an absurd policy. It will mean there will be more smoking than there would otherwise be, and the other effect will be to stimulate a black market in the much safer products that people want to use. So there's very little justification for a policy like this.
So what's the way forward in this? Well, the evidence is absolutely clear. Safer nicotine products, tobacco harm reduction, can make a significant dent in the numbers of people who die from smoking-related diseases and oral tobacco diseases.
I think there's no case whatsoever, ethically or from a public health point of view, for prohibition of vaping products. And where there are these prohibitions, they should be lifted as soon as possible.
Not to say you shouldn't have all the other regulations and controls, but tobacco harm reduction needs to be an integral part of any country's tobacco control strategy.
Let's remember that in the UK, over the last few months, Javed Khan was appointed by the British government to carry out an independent commission to look at how they could accelerate an end to smoking in the UK. His conclusion placed vaping at the centre of the British policy to end smoking by 2030. Included in it were also a particularly strong role for physicians to actually take the leadership position. I really hope that the Indian government will take heart that it's time to reflect on the evidence, appoint a similar commission, and hopefully come to a conclusion that a combination of vaping, a combination of nicotine pouches, and other products could not only reduce the combustible effects, but the effects of the toxic tobacco products on the Indian market that are the cause for India being the capital of the world with regard to oral cancer. Thank you.